hello everyone. A very, very warm welcome to MEF Connect's Omnichannel. My name is James Williams, and a very warm welcome also to all of you joining online. This, as Dario said, is our fourth iteration of MEF Connect's Omnichannel. We get asked a lot, what's the difference between this and MEF Connect's business messaging, which is typically run in the April timeframe? Well, very simply, the hint is in the name. Omnichannel, we're covering all the channels, and business messaging, you heard from Nick Lane at Mobile Squared, SMS still makes up a huge portion of CPaaS, and indeed the bedrock, the foundation on which CPaaS, if you want to call it conversational commerce, and everything is built on as well. So every channel is open for business here. Now, Steve Legg, the CEO of NetNumber, mentioned voice. And actually, there was something very, very nice in his presentation. And if you're looking at the various types of fraud, the only type of fraud which impacted every single one of the four types of stakeholder NetNumber identified was, guess what? Voice. And voice is something that has been around. Well, I'm going to throw this out to the audience to wake you all up. When was the first voice call made? In what year? Anybody? 50 years ago? No. Which one? So, Gene, did you say 1888? It was a bit before that. So we won't waste our time. It was 1876. So it's getting on close, 12 years, but no cigar, Gene. Very close. So almost 150 years old. And on December the 3rd, so a bit later this week, SMS will be 31 years old, because actually, those of you who were at this event last year will probably remember a little cake being wheeled out with happy birthday 30 years. But unfortunately, because of health and safety reasons, we weren't actually allowed to eat the cake. That sucks, because it was a really nice chocolate cake, but there we go. So voice has been around for so many years. We always talk about SMS a lot and rich messaging channels, but never forget voice. And also in the run-up this morning and at the break time as well, talking to another MEF member, we've got Clavio, and there are many MEF members actually whose origins come from the world of email too. So please let's not forget the traditional channels, but the ultimate traditional channel, the ultimate channel that all of us know because we speak every day, we rely on voice so much, is voice. And it's worth several $100 billion every year, about 300 billion. So it's much bigger. Now, LANCK Telecom as a company have been around for over 20 years. They're an exceedingly active MEF member, and I very much appreciate their activities in the working groups, particularly on the anti-fraud side of things. And voice is a topic that they are very, very passionate about. Of course, they cover the anti-fraud side of things on SMS and ultimately other channels too. But voice is something that they are super familiar with. So joining me today, unfortunately, they aren't able to be with us here today, but joining us today are two people from LANCK Telecom. We've got Andrey Gribov. Andrey, are you there? Andrey is there.
Yes, hello, thank you.
Fantastic. So Andrey manages all the voice sales side of things globally for LANCK Telecom. And also we're joined by Yana Matrosova, who is the market manager for Western Europe. So Yana, a very warm welcome to you as well.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you virtually.
There's issues with the sound, but we're going to be solving those issues, no problem. So we're going to be starting off with a presentation about the world of voice and a look into voice fraud and particular types of voice fraud. Andrey, I understand you are in the driving seat for this. So take it away and introduce yourselves, your company, and the topic today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. As always, it's a pleasure to participate in MEF events, and especially when you are helping us to present anything. We are voice company from the beginning, from 23 years old in voice. And we are, together with Yana, still managing this kind of declining internationally market in product of voice. But we are happy to give some updates today. I'm as a head of sales in voice, and Yana as a market manager of Western Europe group, where we actually have seen all the changes first, because this is like one of the most developed regions globally. So I guess we can start, and Yana, maybe you want to add some words first?
Yes, the audio is fine now.
Yes, we can hear you. The voice
Perfect.
is working. So that's a perfect example of voice in action. We got there.
Okay. Hello, dear partners, dear friends, colleagues. My name is Yana Matrosova. I'm a market manager of Western Europe at LANCK Telecom. I am working for voice business since year 2007. Today I'm joined by my manager Andrey, and we would like to bring up the topic of transformation of voice traffic over the past decade. We will cover the shift from traditional retail to enterprise traffic and consider the involvement of sophisticated bad actors. And importantly, we will also look at possible solutions for reviving voice traffic. So let's start to discuss the factors of voice traffic reduction. One major factor for a reduction in voice traffic is the development of OTT applications like Skype, WhatsApp, Telegram, and many others. We've witnessed that private calls have moved to OTT applications for a cost saving of private calls. And the wide implementation of broadband internet like 5G, VoLTE has further facilitated this trend, additionally affected SMS. The second major factor for reduction of voice traffic is the loss of trust, created as a result of the increasing amount of voice fraud, unfortunately, including spam, robocalling, scams, PBE hacks, 1GIRI 2.0. What are the consequences of voice fraud? Let's take a look. The types of it are scam robocalling. So it's when people simply do not answer the calls, while it can be an important legitimate call or vice versa. Person is waiting for a useful call but got a spam call. Another type of fraud is scam. A scam is the use of telecommunications products or services with the intention of illegally acquiring money from or failing to pay its telecommunication company or its customers, and it should be engaged by police. So individuals fall victim to fraud through the social engineering. Regarding B2B hack and 1GIRI 2.0, so B2B traffic is affected by unauthorized access to PBX systems and the 1GIRI 2.0 scam. And a very small but important note, often fraudsters use tricks like changing the caller ID, which causes losses for everyone involved, individuals, companies, transit operators, especially in the cases when OBR is implemented. So they change surcharge traffic to non-surcharge to save their money and to get the money from everybody who is in the chain.
Yana, sorry, could you explain to people what OBR is? Because assume people are not from the voice.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, OBR is a region-based rate. So the simple example of it is if you are calling from Europe to Europe, your call is very cheap. If you go abroad, I don't know, you go to Africa or to Asia and you want to call to Europe, this call would be charged like 10 or 100 times higher. And if you change, like fraudsters do, the caller ID from African or from Asian to European, you pay very small, but the carriers, they pay a lot.
It's also called, I think, A-based charging as well, isn't it? Was that
Yes, exactly, James. Thank you. And the scale of fraudulent activity decreases the trust of end users and enterprises in the voice call channel. This is valid for SMS channel as well. This is one of major factors in the reduction of voice traffic volume. But I have a good news. The new voice traffic came during the past decade. So what are these new streams of voice traffic? This is the call center traffic, help desk services, OTP traffic, online trainings, online shopping, telemedicine constitute. It's the types we got a few years back when COVID-19 changed people's life and played a significant role in the growth of enterprise traffic. The delivery services, online trainings, online shopping became needful and popular. Of course, all this traffic, we can call it overall the enterprise traffic. These streams existed like 10, 15 years ago, but of course in much smaller quantity. We should also keep in mind that these services are used multiple times when people make an order or reservation, and they can go back, ask for help, etc., etc. But however, despite these new traffic types, voice traffic is still decreasing because conversation traffic was anyways bigger than the new coming enterprise. So let's explore the solution for addressing this decline. Andrey will.
Yeah, thank you, Yana. Yes, voice traffic is still decreasing, confirmed by all the participants in the market. We raised two factors of traffic reduction. Let's see and have a look on the solutions. One, the first current problem is high termination rates. Returning to the initial factor of voice SMS traffic reduction, or voice and messaging traffic reduction, this is a traffic's migration to OTT. It's crucial to highlight that from the very beginning, this trend resulted in revenue losses for operators, for carriers themselves. And in an effort to recover revenue, operators began to raise termination rates. Unfortunately, this strategy only lead to one thing, even larger migration, even of users to OTT services. Operators have to find some balanced termination rates. It's now essential to establish well-balanced rates for both sides, attractive to users and sufficient enough to support sustainable operations, network development for carriers. Another
Sorry, Andrey, just breaking you with a question. With
Right.
regards to the rate increases, we know it very, very much mirrors what has been seen in SMS. But of course, voice was around way before SMS. How recently have you seen these big increases in commercial model, in price increases creeping into voice? Is this something very recent, or has it just been the past 2 or 3 years, something more over the medium term? What time frame have these big increases been?
Yeah, firstly, yes, you are right. This is very similar to messaging. That's why I'm from time to time talking about messages as well. In voice, it's a kind of constant process. It's happening from the beginning of voice. In some regions, in some countries, rates are going down, especially when it's regulated, developed countries in terms of network infrastructure. In some countries, rates are still going up. Not only the rates itself, but OBR introduction or introduction of billing cycles. For example, the carriers, there are countries in different parts of the world where the first billing is 60 seconds, 30 or 60 seconds. Not 1 second, second by second, but a 30 second. And this is quite a recent process. Again, for some, it appeared also because of a lot of traffic, much traffic migration from messages to voice.
So that's the two. Well, I think we're going to be talking about it, but flash calling, because when you're migrating to a charging model which accepts pricing based on per second, you're then getting into the realms of A2P voice flash and the ability to potentially charge for that if you can see those calls. So no doubt flash calling and authentication is an issue and has become part of all this as well.
Yes, you're right about flash calls, but usually when we speak about flash calls, we consider calls without any duration at all. So,
okay, so that's the important bit.
Yes,
they're
whatever.
so short, they do not even class as 1 second because they're literally in milliseconds. Yeah.
But when I was meaning the pin to speech or text to speech calls where you have a pronunciation of your code of your one-time password when you have a duration of 15 or 20 seconds, and in this case there are countries which charge for 1 minute completely, even if the duration is 15 or 20 or 25 seconds with the repeating code. So yes, but there are regions where the regular normal even price per second, when you have a billion per second, the price per minute is rising, still rising, and not only the African countries, so there are others. And this is a kind of constant process. In some countries, rates are decreasing, in some countries are increasing. And we are just, our idea is we need to have some balance. Because when the price is per minute is 40, 50, 60 seconds, this is a very high termination rate. I think I'll continue to the next slide and the next problem. The second, Yana already mentioned, restoring trust in voice communication channels. The industry now provides several popular solutions for preventing voice fraud. And however, despite their effectiveness, there are still some drawbacks that we shouldn't ignore. For example, let's start from stir shaking, which works very good against robocalling because it's a tool designed initially as to prevent mainly robocalls. It's established, it's introduced, and it's regulated by FCC Commission in the United States. And interestingly, this concern reached a national level at the moment. But due to the thing that only being implemented in just one single country, it's of course failed to fully protect against all types of frauds. Consequently, FCC took some further steps. Now it requires all voice service providers who offer services to United States termination to file certifications in their RMD, robocall mitigation database, regarding the efforts to fight illegal robocalls on their networks and start a kind of trace back procedures. There are some similar systems in other countries, but they face similar problems. As for downsides, the main obstacles of stir shaking are TDM networks and the varying national regulations which can be used in different countries. We can explore also the second solution, the fraud management system. There are also advantages and disadvantages, which is less and less effective now, is traditional range blockage and the different threshold-based rules. They become less and less effective in countering fraud because the fraudsters themselves, they progress. Their systems, they enhance them, they upgrade them, and also the artificial intelligence, which is commonly used mentioned these days, is also has shown some considerable improvement, but it still has limitations in some particular fraud types. And it's evident that the most promising approach involves real-time end-to-end call validation from the beginning, during the call, and in the end of the call, which ensures confirmation by both the origination and termination service providers through the, like I said, the entire call process. It's very essential to note that this approach should be community-based. In contrast to all the self-protection methods currently in use by different carriers, aggregators, mobile operators, this should be the one system or one approach for everybody in our industry. And this model might be also effective for SMS fraud prevention. Yana, yeah, could you please step in?
Yes, and to finish our conversation, we would like to say that we believe that the involving nature of voice traffic and the challenges posed by fraudulent activities, plus the high competition among voice providers, it's crucial to choose a voice carrier based on more than just a cost reduction. When choosing a voice carrier, the primary focus should be on selecting one with excellent voice quality, fast technical support, robust fraud protection, and the capability to provide tailor-made solutions. So now we have to show to return the trust by removing the fraud, by giving the excellent voice quality, and as Andrey said, the cost reduction of operators would help. So thank you very much for your attention. Maybe you have some questions.
Well, I have some questions, and if the audience have any questions, then let's go for it. Now, Andrey, you mentioned when it came to the pricing of voice that in certain places the regulator has actually stepped in and there are regulations as to the maximum that can be charged for voice. Now that sounds to me as if it's something very, very positive. Yet we as a community within the working groups, which are closed member meetings online. So all of us have discussed this in the past. We discuss this openly at events which are streamed online. So we have an audience live from around the world who aren't members. We always say that actually what we want is as light touch regulation as possible, and for ultimately the industry to do its own self-regulation. So I saw there that you mentioned it's up to the community to really come together to do that. But from your experience, where the regulators have stepped in, how successful has that been? Have they gone too far? Or actually, when the regulators have really moved hard because of high voice pricing, possibly fraud, etc., those regulations are reasonable? What's your LANCK experience on that?
Again, it depends on country, and I
if
think
you've got any specific examples, please feel free. No problem at all.
Yeah, I agree with I mean, speaking about European Union, this is a fully advantage for the end customers, for the end users, for end mobile users to have such a low termination rates across all European Union, to have a roaming-free zones. This is an advantage. The only question, how deep is the influence of the regulators? Yes, like you mentioned, it should be a little bit lighter, because there should be still a way for operators to receive revenues. And actually, one of the reasons of these low European rates, there was introduction of OBR. Yes, because when you call outside of Europe, you have high rates, and it can be even, I think, €2, not cents, just €2 can be rates from some certain countries, maybe some niche islands, or from manipulated or invalid A numbers. So sometimes it should be a balance, and it should be a balance again in here in the regulation, because operators, carriers should spend money for network upgrade, for moving to new technologies, for increase the bandwidth, so to make the level of service, of customer service. So definitely there should be a balance. But if it's not regulated at all, if there is no guidance from the industry, from the regulator, rates can be like I mentioned before, 40, 50, or even 60 and 70 cents. There are countries, and this is I think this destroy any opportunity to build the voice traffic. So
do you feel, So do you feel if there wasn't this influence out there, exactly like we've heard with SMS, with certain stakeholders in the industry feeling, look, SMS is on its way out, it's going to die soon, let's make as much, as we say in the UK, as much hay when the sun shines as possible, let's make as much profit as we can while it's still alive. Is that attitude, do you find that attitude coming into voice, or is it already there? Or people think, actually, no, look, voice surely has to be around longer than SMS. What is going on with that? Are you seeing more and more and more higher prices like you are seeing on your SMS business?
Not everywhere, James, but for some countries, yes. And I think everything is connected, because voice traffic, if we speak about total global numbers, is decreasing. The traffic is decreasing. The carriers itself, they got this idea to increase their messaging prices just to compensate the drop of voice. There is also a connection here, because this is one department in mobile carriers for international traffic of either voice.
That's actually a very good point.
Yeah, because lots of people here.
Sorry about talking over you, but yeah, it's a very good point, because lots of people say that, oh, the SMS increase, particularly in international rates, is because of the impact of COVID, the impact of clearly no roaming revenue. So therefore, let's put up the SMS prices. But actually, I think I touched the screen. I don't want to escape full screen. There we go. But actually, it's people forget the voice component. So not only is it that the roaming was hit, but voice has been hit. So therefore, the fallback is always SMS. Let's really ramp up the pricing on SMS. Okay, that's a really, really interesting point. Now, on the fraud side of things, it's very, very easy for people to think, particularly with SIM farms, that SIM farms are around purely for SMS and messaging. Indeed, across MEF, within our RCS-related working groups, particularly on our general anti-fraud working group within messaging, we're hearing and seeing more incidences of actually spam on RCS coming from SIM farms. So SIM farms have been retasked for spam. Are SIM farms still a very, very big problem in the voice world as well? That has not gone away.
Yeah, for somebody it's a problem. For somebody, this is an opportunity. If the termination rate, official termination rate is 30-40 cents, I mean, there is a lot of it's driven a lot to be to introduce to implement all these SIM gates, yes, SIM farms, like you said. It's not that popular nowadays like it used to be, what I see from my point of view, but it's still that's an issue, because it's an issue that suffers both carriers, because they lose their revenues, but also the end users, because the quality is affected much. In voice, it's affected much. You don't have the correct CLI, you have disconnections. Yes, you have fake IVRs when you call to your mother, but you hear that you don't have enough money on your account, but you do have, but the SIM card doesn't have. So it's the quality issues, they're just the conversational, during the conversational. So it's still there is an issue. Of course, it's quite easy to fight against it if you use direct routes or partners who offer the kind of premium termination price list, which guarantees that termination will be only to the in-country partners. So and now it's not that popular like it used to be.
Okay. The one good thing about the voice world, where it's a big world, there's lots of fraud, but there appear to be more established processes in place in terms of reporting fraud, dealing with fraud after the fact. So I know for international revenue share fraud on voice, there's really established practice in a good number of countries where if you're an enterprise, in simple language, your phone bill is way higher than it should be. You can report it, essentially go to the police, the authorities, get a crime reference number and track it back that way. We're going to be hearing tomorrow in our opening session at 9 a.m. We're going to be looking at the whole area of artificial inflation of traffic, and joined by Meta and many others from and many other MEF members as well, looking at the issue. And we know, unfortunately, that when it comes to SMS, there isn't that standardization in play in how to react to incidences of fraud. So it's good that Voice as a community and you, LANCK, I know are working very, very hard in standardizing things, in coming up with codes of conduct on the voice side of things as well. And I think it's important to realize here within MEF, we have the future of messaging area, ecosystem within MEF. And so many times people get drawn into the SMS conversation or the richer messaging conversation. But let's not forget that voice is there and has such an important role. Now, Andrey and Yana, can I just come back to A2P flash calling? And can we put this issue to bed? And let's have once and for all a determination here. So you were one of the first companies to bring the issue of A2P voice flash up within the Fraud and Revenue Assurance Working Group of MEF, brought it to our attention several years ago now. So it's not something brand new around and about. The A2P flash side of things, from your perspective as well, how frequently are you seeing A2P flash coming up? Is it really 100% equivalent to where the rates are high for voice? You are seeing, oh, sorry, rates are high for SMS, should I say, or anything. You are seeing definitely more A2P flash. There is absolutely no doubt the two are totally linked. Is that correct?
Yes, James, I can answer this question. Absolutely, every day we see this traffic is coming. And of course, everybody wants to have these cost savings. But again, there is a very popular trend, which is coming now more in Asia countries, but not only there. So operators start using another incremental system. It's not the charge per second, but now it's charge per minute. So even if you call for 1 second, you would be charged for 1 minute. So this is the solution they made to protect themselves from this. Because when this flash call traffic is coming, it's usually very massive. And we're not speaking only about the potential money loss of the operators, but also we speak about the channels which are full of this flash calling. Yeah. This is the issue as well.
And yes, there is direct connection between the high price per message and the popularization of flash calling in that country.
I think folks,
yeah,
we're seeing a real big theme already at the event, and we're hearing it. So very, very simply, high pricing in SMS generally, again, it's just from what we're seeing, is very much a destabilizing factor in the marketplace. Of course, MEF is antitrust. Anybody, operators, aggregators, whatever type of stakeholder, you can charge what you want. No one can determine that unless it's in a regulated market. But clearly, there are adverse impacts if you take things too far. Now, I know certain operators and operator groups have a determination that A2P flash calling is bad. Let's block every single bit of A2P flash calling. What would you say to one such operator, an operator that goes, I don't want A2P flash calling in my network at all, block it? Do you say that, okay, you're potentially losing an opportunity, or what's your take on it? Is it an opportunity, A2P flash?
From the perspective of the end user who is waiting for this call, it's not any kind of fraud. Yes, so for him or for her, he's expecting this call to be authorized, verified in some application. So he's waiting for it, either for SMS or OTP voice. Yes, and it's not a fraud for him. It's a fraud for operator, because in some way, because their network is using for free. Yes, for traffic, because when there is no duration, so there is no payment. but there is still a kind of conjunction because there is still a lot of attempts, a lot of calls hitting the network, so network is used. So for carriers, of course, this is a bad behavior. I don't see much future actually for flash calling, because it's from my personal point of view, it's not very comfortable, convenient way of verification. But
it's the customer experience. People need to think about the customer experience. Yeah.
And again, I'm trying to think not only on behalf of us as aggregator, as a wholesale carrier, but as a user itself. Yes, because I also have receiving all the verification methods. I'm always quite often verificating different websites or applications, and of course SMS is more convenient. But with these high rates, I understand why enterprises, they move budget, they cut the budget, and they try different ways of verification and different voice, not only flash again. Yes, text to speech is pin code speeching versions. They also quite popular. And so as also we had a lot of communication with operators itself. Some of them are thinking how to monetize it, how to get money from it. But again, I don't think there's much potential here in flash calls in the future, and this is like a short-term opportunity.
Yeah. Anyway, there would be a solution to wipe out any issue, very simply, to get that visibility using solutions like companies like you can have. So you have visibility on all the incoming calls. You can determine whether it's flash or not. And if you've determined it's flash, you can then decide ultimately to price it as the same as A to P SMS. So that would negate any advantage anyone would ever have on that, ultimately. I know that's something we've talked about as well in the past. So Andrey, Yana, believe it or not, we're coming up to the end of our session already, but thank you very much. At MEF events, there are very few organizations that actually talk about voice. And I think certainly in the past events, you kindly sponsored an event in AfricaCom, our Africa Roundtable. You were talking about voice then as well. And indeed, a year ago, we were talking about voice. So it's great that you are really emphasizing the power and the influence voice still does have. It's under attack, folks. And the key thing is the commercial model. But I haven't forget, we have questions. Thank you, Susan. Susan was looking at me, keeping me on track here. Has anybody in the audience in front of me got any questions about the world of voice in anything at all? Because these folks here from LANCK know their stuff. Any questions at all? No, we're all set and nothing online. No. Perfect. So we're good to go. We're perfectly on time. Andrey, Yana, thank you so much. Thanks to LANCK for your continuing support.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy the rest of the event. Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.